So on today's weekly watch list, we're going to talk about the films that I have watched this week. Not only that, we're going to talk about a game that I've created, kind of, but I haven't created it, for how I watch films, and also a fan theory that has kind of popped in my head. I don't know if it already exists or not, but let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and to talk about, well, what I've been watching over the past week. Now, because this gives me the opportunity to talk about films that I may never review as an individual film. You know what I mean? So it gives me a chance to kind of play around in that sort of ballpark. And I used to do this before. I used to do like a weekly watch video, but it kind of went by the by. So anyway, just if anyone's wondering, first off, that Star Wars show, something like The Acolyte, that's what it's called. I couldn't remember the name then. I've not watched it. I'm done with it. I'm done. I'm not even going to attempt to watch that any further. So that's that. So I've only watched 4 films this week. That's it. And I won't have one of these for another, well, a couple of weeks, to be honest. I won't have one next week, but I'll have one the week after. I'm just too busy. I've got too much going on. I'm not going to be able to watch much next week, so I'm going to give it a break for a week, even though I've only just started it. But there you go. That's the way these things happen. So the first film this week that I'll talk about is The Moon. Yes, I watched The Moon, South Korean film, sci-fi, space, adventure, action-y kind of thing about a individual Korean astronaut who gets stranded on the moon, and well, they have to set about saving him. I bought that as a blind buy. I have done a review, a little bit of shameless plug here. I've done a review for the film, so go and check that out. I do go into detail in that about what I like about the film. It's a very good film. But the problems that the film did have and that I encountered going on. I also talk about the 4K transfer in that video. It's a few videos back, not far. Go back and check it out if you're interested. So there's that one. Then I thought I would revisit Fury Road. Not Fury Road, sorry, Furiosa. Furiosa, a Mad Max-less saga. Yes, the new Mad Max-less film. On a second watch, I did review it when that came out as well. But I do stand by my opinion in that, number one, it's a film that wasn't needed, or no one wanted. You know, they want Mad Max. We want Mad Max in a Mad Max film, not without. It's a well-made film by George Miller. It's got a story to it, which obviously Fury Road lacked. Fury Road was pretty much just action from beginning to the end. This does have story, but it sits at 2.5 hours long. Okay, it's thematically, and the way it's structured is more akin to Beyond Thunderdome than anything else. It has some fantastic moments in it, but it also has other moments where I could probably shuttle search through. I could probably shuttle search through 30 or 40% of the movie and just watch the stuff, the bits, the action scenes where I like them, which is what I can do with Beyond Thunderdome. Yeah, it's not as good as Fury Road. Nowhere near. Also, it has an overly reliance on CGI and fake backdrops and this sort of thing that wasn't so prominent in Fury Road. You didn't feel it as much, but here you're starting to feel that fakeness in some of it, which is such a shame. But Chris Hemsworth delivers. He delivers, even though he's got this makeup on, or fake up, whatever you want to call it. It does look pretty fake. But I was a bit worried about that. I was a bit worried about Chris Hemsworth being in this film because, let's be fair, outside of Thor. Chris Hemsworth hasn't really done anything that set the world alight, and he's probably not going to. But here he gives a great performance. He gives a very strong, good performance. I was worried about that, but he delivered. But there we go. So let's get on to the 2 films from my back catalogue of films. And this is where this game takes place. So obviously we all know the game 7 Degrees of Separation, Kevin Bacon, where you try and get from one Kevin Bacon film to another Kevin Bacon film by, 7 degrees of separation. It's much akin to that, in that even though I've been doing it, and I've been talking about it on the past 2 videos, how one film kind of has connectivity to another film as I'm watching, I thought about actually turning that into a way of watching my films. And this way I might visit films that I may never have decided to visit, because I'm limiting what I can and can't watch. So each film has to connect to the next film in some way, shape or form, whether it be director, actor, a co-star that's in it, or music. I'm not going to go any deeper than that into like, it's the same co-producer, it's the same bloody set decorator, it's the same Foley artist. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to keep it quite, small, and so anyway, so let's get to it, and this is where the fan theory will come into play as well. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But the first film that I watched from the back catalogue was The Sure Thing. Yes, German edition here. John Cusack, very young John Cusack. I believe this is the film that kind of got him noticed, and mid-80s, 1985. It also starred Nicolette Sheridan was introduced in this film. I only really know her from Desperate Housewives, the TV series, and Daphne Zuniga is Zuniga. That sounds so bad the way I'm saying that. I don't mean it to. Is that how you pronounce her name? I don't know. I've probably completely destroyed that name, and at the same time offended an entire race of people as well. But that's her name, Zuniga. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Let me know. Anyway, it just sounds so wrong. Anyway, so this is a coming of age 1980s comedy. John Cusack plays this young boy who's freshman. He's in college. He's a freshman. He's going to travel from his college over to California, where his old mates are, who are going to hook him up with a sure thing, a sure lay, shall we say? That being Nicolette Sheridan. But he befriends this girl who's a bit kind of got a rod shoved up her backside, so to speak, always on time with her homework, always getting good grades, do you know what I mean, doesn't put a foot wrong, that kind, goody two shoes kind of girl, do you know what I mean? And yeah, a bit more posh and that sort of a thing, and they have to go on this road trip together, hitch a ride, so to speak, with Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins' small role in the film, and yeah, and they end up getting kicked out of that, and they have to survive on the road, kind of planes, trains, automobiles kind of style, so to speak, and try and get to where they're going, all while formulating this relationship between the two of them. It's a sweet film. It's a good film. It's a decent film. So then, from that film, I had to connect the next film. Now, Daphne Zuniga, I don't think I've got anything with her in. Maybe one other film, to be honest. I looked at her biography, and yeah, I haven't got nothing with her in. And Nicolette Sheridan, I don't think so, other than Desperate Housewives TV series, which isn't a contender for this. So I had to go with John Cusack. I could have gone with Rob Reiner, but as a director, but I went with Cusack. I like John Cusack. And that took me to one of my favourite films of John Cusack. And no, it's not Con Air. I like Con Air. It's a great film. But as a John Cusack film, it's a Nick Cage film, that is. But as a John Cusack film, it took me to Grosse Pointe Blank. Grosse Pointe Blank with Jeremy Piven stars in this, and that's what I'm going to come to in a minute. That's part of the fan theory thing. But John Cusack, Minnie Driver, Alan Arkin, Dan Aykroyd. John Cusack is a hitman, Martin Blank, who is a bit sort of disenfranchised with what he's doing. He doesn't want to do it anymore. You've got Dan Aykroyd as this other contract killer who wants to create a consortium, if you will, of killers, and wants to bring John Cusack into the fray. John Cusack doesn't want to join it. This gets Dan Aykroyd's back up. John Cusack decides to take one more job, but this one more job happens to fall in line with his 10-year high school reunion back where he used to live. And he hasn't been there for 10 years. He just vanished from there and obviously went on and done this, as a killer. So anyway, he decides to go back there. His therapist, Alan Arkin, a reluctant therapist, says it would be a good idea. So John Cusack goes and obviously hooks up with his kind of ex-girlfriend who he left at the dance, what they have over there in America. My mind's drawing a blank, ironically. What do they call it when they have their big dances? We have them over here now, don't we? That American kind of tradition. Anyway, he left her. He didn't go to that with her. And yeah, anyway, so it's a sort of dark comedy, action, hitman, high school reunion kind of a film. It's a great film with a great 80s soundtrack to it. It's a really good film. Came out in 1997. Same year as Con Air, actually. John Cusack was kind of flying high then, wasn't he? So, yeah, it's a really solid film. So, that brings me to my game. My next film has to be someone in this. Dan Aykroyd, Alan Arkin, Minnie Driver, John Cusack. Could be the director. But I've landed upon Minnie Driver. I'm not going to go more than 2 films with an actor in. So, John Cusack, now to Minnie Driver. And then that would be Minnie Driver in Grosse Pointe Blank, and whatever I watch with Minnie Driver in next. So I'd like you to let me know, what Minnie Driver film do you think I should watch, and whether I've actually got it. That's the big deal, do you know what I mean? I'm not going to source one just for the sake of it. Now, we'll be playing that game around other watches, so new films and things like that I haven't seen, or something new pick up, something like that. I'll be playing it around that. But when it comes to me go into my backlog collection of films, I have to pick something that is connectivity to the other one. Kind of 7 degrees of separation. Kevin Bacon game. Like I said, that plays out. So each film has to have a connectivity. So Minnie Driver's my next choice. But that gets onto my fan theory about these films. Now, I know there is a fan theory that exists with John Cusack, his high school rom-com films. But I want to connect this film to then. I don't know if I can find it. Probably not. I don't know where it is. A great film of his, which is, I don't know where it is down there. I'm not going to draw it out now, but it's Serendipity with Kate Beckinsale, the rom-com, Christmas rom-com. So, okay, so here we have John Cusack in a high school. It's a high school kid, blah, blah, blah. Here we have him attending his high school reunion about 10 years later. Okay. So the links, what links this film to this is the high school element and John Cusack. Now, if you take into account that certain things don't match, the location, names, etc., etc., you could consider that John Cusack is telling these stories, his character, and he's changing characters' names for safety of others, purposes of others, this sort of thing, and the name of locations. But yeah, it could be a case of going back. And obviously the girl that he ends up with in this, he splits up with, and then he's got the interest in Minnie Driver's character from this. And then that links Serendipity. Now, Serendipity, his best friend in Serendipity is played by Jeremy Piven. His best friend in this is played by Jeremy Piven. Now, in this film, John Cusack kills a bloke in the high school, and him and Jeremy Piven wrap the body up and throw it into an incinerator in the lower bowels of the school. Serendipity, Jeremy Piven is his best friend. The names are different. What happens? Well, they have to go into hiding after the events of this film with name changes and all this sort of thing, which you can believe that Martin Blank knows how to set up, if Martin Blank is even his real name, right? Well, it would be because it's a high school, but if he's telling the story, do you know what I'm saying? So he could change those things. So the names then change to whatever it is in Serendipity, and the same with Jeremy Piven. They have to go into hiding because people are after them. setting off the events of that. Now, the connective tissue between Serendipity and this is in Serendipity, John Cusack's character knows a bit about constellations. He's talking to Kate Beckinsale. He likens some of the freckles on her arms to one of the constellations up there in the sky. In this, John Cusack's character knows about the constellations. He's telling it to one of the girl when they're on the rooftop, in the rooftop scene, about the constellations that are up there. So you can have this kind of... I know it's quite weak, okay, but in my mind, up here, I'm kind of linking them. I'm kind of saying, is there a way to link them? I'm not giving it too much thought, you know. If I sat down and actually thought about it and said, well, he done this, he changed these details in this film to this film, changed certain details because he's the narrator, an unreliable narrator because things had to be changed, etc. You could say that it works. That's all I'm saying, okay? That's all I'm saying. But no, my next film isn't going to be Serendipity. Unfortunately, I love Serendipity. I think it's a fantastic film. It's a Christmas film, a good Christmas film. I may visit that at Christmas again. But you never know. I could get to Kate Beckinsale and work my way back round to Serendipity as another Beckinsale choice. Who knows? But anyway, so my next film has got to be Minnie Driver film. So let me know in the comments what Minnie Driver film you think I should watch. I don't want to do Tarzan because it's a voice role. I want to do a film with her in. GoldenEye, it's only a cameo appearance. Hard Rain is a choice. Good Will Hunting is a choice. I'm not sure how many films I actually have with her in. She was in The Beekeeper recently, wasn't she? In a small role. Yeah, I believe she was. But I do remember her from a TV show here in the UK back in the late 80s, early 90s maybe. My good friend, or my best friend maybe, George Cole from Minder starred in it. She only done the first 6 episodes. I think it continued without her because that's when she moved to Hollywood and started getting, so it would be mid-90s I think, and she started to sort of branch into Hollywood and Hollywood roles. But anyway, there we go. So let me know what you've been watching. Let me know what Minnie Driver film I should go with, and let me know about the Fan Theory. Is there a way to make it work? Let's talk about it.